Editing Dea here. Just like to say a quick sorry for the delay in the upload. This was originally shot in January, so please just pretend that you're watching it then. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the episode. I'm Dea.
I'm Reece.
And we are Literally Dead. It is our first episode of 2025.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I don't care if it's weird to say that. It's the first time you're seeing us this year.
Exactly. We're in our pajamas because that's how you start a year.
That's how you start the year right. We're in our pajamas, on the sofa, got a little blanket. We're living it. It's great.
Yeah.
How's your January been so far?
Mine?
Yeah.
Not very good.
Oh.
I've been inactive. I feel like I went to sleep on Christmas and I've woken up this morning.
Wow.
Yeah. What about you?
Oh, well, I actually had a job at the beginning of this year. And then on the third day they said they didn't have the budget to give me anymore. And I got sacked on the bus.
On your...
On the way home, I got a call from my recruiter and he's like, "Hey, how you doing?"
A 3-day job. Ooh.
I know. But I did learn how to clean out 2 types of coffee machines.
There you go. And you still got paid, so.
And I still got paid. How's your year been, viewers? Tell us in the comments how your January is going.
Yeah, or like DM us.
Yeah.
On Instagram.
I don't have my DMs open.
But you can DM us at Literally Dead.
Yeah.
Or is it Lit Dead?
Yeah, DM the Lit Dead account.
Yeah.
Not us personally.
Linked below.
Yes, it's in the link below. We have loads of links below, including important links, and then also our social medias underneath them.
And where are you listening to us from?
That's true, because we looked at our Acast stats, and we found out we've got people listening to us on all kinds of places. Shout out to the 2 guys on Deezer.
Yeah.
Shout out to you.
We have 2 Deezer listeners.
We chat so much shit about Deezer, and there's 2 of you there.
Yeah.
You know what? I hope you're doing well. I hope this is your year. This is your year, Deezer listeners. 2025.
It really is. There's like 67 of you on Spotify.
I reckon it's just like me checking it by accident.
Yeah, in total, it's like 300 listeners, like of all time. For 12 episodes, that's pretty good.
I think so. I think we're almost 15 episodes, aren't
I don't know how many episodes we have. You'll find out when you read the title of this one.
Yeah, so will I. I have to check the YouTube ones when I upload them.
We're really good at this.
We are. We're so good. Yeah.
All right, today we're doing The Fly.
Classic film.
Yeah, body horror.
Mm-hmm. I had not seen it before.
No, I had seen it, but just a long time ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, film poor, shout out.
I don't think I'd seen that many David Cronenberg films either. I tried to watch Crash on like Tubi or something, and I just couldn't I was falling asleep at the time, so it didn't help.
Yeah, and this is one of his bigger, well, not bigger, but this is one of the ones people talk about the most.
Yeah, this is like one of the things that put him on the map, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but we haven't really covered that many like masters of horror before, and I think this is a good way to start the year off, really, with an all-time classic.
I agree. We tried to do niche stuff, but this time we thought,
Give you guys a little treat.
Yeah, and we do a film about transformation because we are all becoming a new person in 2025.
Do you have any goals for 2025? Your New Year's resolutions?
To slowly transition into a humanoid fly.
I like that.
What about you?
Well, I like the idea of not digesting food in my stomach anymore and just having to spit acid at it.
I like that.
Yeah.
No, on a real note, just want 2025 to be like good. I have a lot of hopes for this podcast in 2025.
Me too. We're gonna get everything's done.
Yeah, we're gonna get a better filming space because we've been in between spaces.
Yeah.
We're gonna be more consistent.
I'm gonna edit so much. You're gonna be bombarded with clips. You're gonna be sick of us.
We're gonna do bonus content too.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I lied in the last episode. I said that the Terrified video would be out, and it's still not. But it will be this year.
Maybe. Is that your New Year's resolution? Is to get that uploaded?
Yeah, to get them uploaded.
If you want to start a podcast, anyone who's listening, start.
Yeah, it's so easy.
Yeah, and then until it's not.
Yeah, until you actually want to do other stuff like bonus videos or social media content.
Doing it isn't hard.
No.
But doing it actually doing it, that's the bit that just takes a push.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, let's get into this film. Where's that
Yes.
spoiler-free synopsis?
I have it just like last year. Seth, a scientist, decides to test out his teleportation machine. Little does he know, a fly gets in the pod with him, and the two become one. Ooh.
That's my little sound effect.
I like it.
Yeah.
It's a very, like, 80s kind of, music.
We always so slow. Okay.
I like being slow. It's fine.
Yeah, like relax. Have a cup of tea. No.
Chill out. Where are you listening to this? On the loo?
Yeah, on the loo, at the gym, working, on your commute to work.
Yeah. At work? Don't tell your boss. Actually, no, do tell your
What
boss.
is us just keep mentioning work? Like, is anyone who listens to this employed?
Yeah.
That's my question.
I know a few people who are listening to this who are employed.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Successful. I'm glad for your success.
Employ people keeping us employed.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, the film starts and we didn't know where we were. It was some kind of science gathering. We think it was a gala of some kind.
Yeah, some sort of gala, science event, maybe an opening at a museum.
Yeah, it looks very fancy. And our main guy, Seth, is chatting to this woman, Veronica, about what he's doing. And he says, I'm going to change the world. I'm going to change the world.
Yeah, he's flexing.
Yeah. And she's like, well, a lot of other scientists have said the same thing. And he's like, yeah, but they're lying, though.
He's very sassy. And he's like very obviously trying to rizz her up. Although his rizz is stale.
Jeff Goldblum is plays Seth in this movie. And I know he was like is it 80s, 90s heartthrob sex symbol thing? But I can't lie, for the first, I want to say half an hour of this movie, I did not buy he had any riz.
No, not at all.
No.
Not at all. I don't buy it for any of it. I never understood the Jeff Goldblum vibe. I don't think he's ugly, but I don't understand why people think he's like this gorgeous, charming man.
I mean, do you know what I mean? Like, a lot of actors are gorgeous and charming, so I didn't see why he was more or less than they were, you know?
Yeah.
But he has, like, that autistic riz, so...
Anyway, this one was an interviewer.
Yeah.
And he hits her with his stale riz, and she's like, nah. So she walks away. But he doesn't take no for an answer.
No.
He chases her down. He's like, look, I can show it to you. It's different. You've never seen nothing like it before.
She's like, oh my god, I could write it in my science magazine.
So she gets in a fucking car with him.
Yeah, she drives him there because he has motion sickness.
This man she just met, although obviously his reputation precedes him, I believe.
Yeah, he's like he's done other big projects before. And he's like talking in this car about how he's motion sick and hates vehicles and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And that's probably the reason for his work, actually. He doesn't say it is specifically, but...
No, but it did influence his decision to do what he did, which was...
a teleportation machine.
Exactly.
But his lab is this, like, abandoned warehouse thing. And I remember saying this to you while we were watching the film. It's like, if I went away for a party with a man and he brought me to an abandoned warehouse, I'd drive away. I'd leave him there.
Yeah, it was shady as hell.
You could get murdered.
But
in the house.
You know what? She's one of those journalists in like a film that's just like, I'll do anything for a scoop.
Got my story. Oh my god.
He shows her the teleports.
Well, no, he enters the house. They enter the thing, and he just starts randomly playing piano. Do you not remember that?
Oh yeah, he does.
And I'm just like, what is going on?
It's his stale riz.
She enters the room and he's just the piano.
Yeah.
And then she's like, okay, well, this is really unimpressive. Like, I'm going to leave. And he's like, no, wait, let me show you. And she's like, what, designer phone booths?
Yeah, because he shows off his telepods, which are these two metal contraptions, sort of across the room from each other, connected by large tubes. They kind of look like big metallic butt plugs with a door that opens.
Okay.
You disagree?
I don't know what... I was thinking like a cookie jar, but like a sci-fi nerd cookie jar.
No, it was like the shape of an egg.
Yeah.
Which is the shape of a butt plug.
I'm not really thinking about butt plugs that often, to be honest.
Well, neither was I until I watched this film. Anyway. She thinks they're like telephone booths. She's really putting them down. Like,
she's not impressed with this
not
man.
Although I will say, he's like, okay, let me show you how it works. So he asked for something personal from her.
Yeah.
That he's going to teleport. Obviously, he's asking for something personal, so he can't just like fake it. If it's something that she brought, she'll know that, like, you know, how could he have faked it? And he says, just something personal on you. So she starts to take off her shoe, and I think, oh, that's so smart.
The shoe.
She's going to give him her shoe. No, she then continues to fucking very slowly and seductively
sensually take off her stocking.
That's what she's giving him, her nylon stocking.
And then he puts it in the machine.
Yeah.
And
it evaporates, it disappears. And she's all like,
where'd it go?
You just microwaved my stocking, thanks a lot. I'm so impressed. And he's like, but look in the other pod. And she's like, what? So she goes over there, there's a flash of light, and all of a sudden, her stockings are in the other pod.
Yeah.
She picks it up and she's like, we're onto something.
Wow.
Yeah, we're. Yeah. Immediately she's like, this is our thing. We're onto something. This is big. We have to document this.
Working on this shit for like 6 years, and she's like, this is our thing because I'm gonna write about it. And he's like, you can't write about it. No, I don't want to deal with this like fame and all that kind of bullshit.
So she starts a recording on her recorder and puts it in her pocket. And then she starts asking him all these questions. He's getting really into it. But the recording on her recorder
beeps.
It beeps because the tape fills up. So she takes it out to replace it, and he sees it. And he's like, you can't record me. This can't be out yet. It's not done. It's not ready.
And then she's like, well, I'm doing it anyway. Bye. And she just fucks off.
Yeah, she runs away. Because he does crash out a little bit.
He does. He gets really like... He's a very intense kind of man. Like, he's like... One minute he's just telling you about like his science and stuff, and that's kind of like... You know what I mean? He's giving him the autistic Riz. But then like... A second later, if you say something like against it, or you say you're going to do something else, he's like, wait, blah, 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 and he's like, getting in your face, and I'm just like, no.
Yeah. Although I was as stupid as she was, you know, and how desperate she is to get a scoop, as soon as that man started acting up, she knew, okay, I gotta leave.
Gotta leave.
She's like, yeah, even I'm not that dumb to stay around with a crashing out strange man.
Yeah, absolutely. In a fucking abandoned
Especially
warehouse.
not these crazy scientists, because you know how that goes.
Oh, fucking scientists, man.
So it cut to her bringing the tape recording of him answering some questions to her boss at, you know, the newspaper she works at. Or
oh wait, sorry.
Can
I just say before when he's like crashing out, right? He acts surprised, and she's like, yeah, but I'm a journalist though, and he's like, yeah, but I thought you were just interested. And I was like, I had this like theory, well not theory, but like thought in my head. I was like, was he just there to get laid? Like, is he just trying to impress this woman with his teleportation machine? And she's just like she's fully there for work. We knew this the whole time because she mentions interviews in the gala at some point, and then he's just acting so surprised that she's there for work this whole time.
Yeah, he's like, I thought you were just here because you like found me hot and we were about to fuck. And she's like, no,
I have an article to write.
To do.
He was there for pussy.
He's so shocked. He's like, what do you mean you're leaving? But you didn't get the dick yet. She's like, I got what I came for. And he's like, no, you didn't. She's like, believe me, I did. Believe me, I did.
Yeah, she was just not having it. Yeah, so she tells her boss. Oh, are you gonna...
Yeah, well, she tells her boss,
who's also her ex.
Yeah, but
which we find out later.
Which
was so confused.
Her editor rather than her boss. But it sort of comes off like he's her boss, but it is more like he's her editor. It's kind of like a half and half. This man sort of plays everything to her in this film. He's
her ex-boyfriend. He's her editor. Boss, he's kind of her friend and her stalker. It's like a lot.
Her hero, like.
I feel like maybe do they not have the budget? Do they use all the budget on the effects?
Honestly, like I think we both think she was just groomed, because it is sort of later said that he was her professor in college and he convinced her to go from
just going into regular scientist to being a scientific journalist.
Yeah, so like, and he was much older than her, obviously, because he was her, well, not much, but a little older. And we think he groomed her, like made her come to a town that she didn't really know anyone in, sort of isolate her from her friends, because she literally knows nobody except him.
She only turns to him in the film. She only interacts with him or Seth in the film.
Relationship problems. She goes to him, which is useless because he doesn't know anything about the science, doesn't even believe it, and is her ex, so can't even help her with the relationship aspect of being with this new guy, and also is an absolute cunt, so isn't even like good to confide in emotionally, but he's the only person that she has.
Yeah.
Anyway,
we don't know that yet. We just think he's just a boss who thinks that he's low-key sexist because he thinks this woman got conned, right?
So he shows her this tape and he's like you said, thinks she got conned. He's like, oh, it's an old magician's trick, like you just got fooled, like it's not real science, and doesn't believe it. Next thing we know, the receptionist comes in and says, hey, Seth, that scientist, is here.
And he leaves them alone.
Yeah, so he's like, here, you can talk to your little magician friend. And he leaves. And that's when Seth, the scientist, is like, hey, you were quick. Yeah. I'm glad he didn't believe you, because I want to report this, but I want to report it the right way.
Yeah.
How about you come and document it with me? And once I'm able to teleport myself, that's when we'll release this to the world.
Yeah, he was giving her ideas of like a book basically, as opposed to like an article.
Yeah.
And
letting her know that it's not. He doesn't think it's ready.
And this is also kind of when they go on a little date, because he goes, "I have a magic word," and he's like, "What's that?" Cheeseburger.
That's his Riz.
That's his Riz.
He goes cheeseburger with like quotations, or like a rar hands, like the claw from Liar.
She does it again at another point in the movie, and I think that was kind of a cute throwback, but I still think he's creepy.
Yeah, when he does it, it was really uncomfortable.
I found it creepy. Yeah, and she's like, "Okay, fine, we'll do the book thing." So she comes home that night, and she hears someone in her house, and she's like, "Okay, what the fuck's going on?" So she goes and she finds a man in her shower. This man is Strathis, the ex/boss/editor, everything we talked about before.
And she's immediately like mad at him. She's like, what are you doing in here?
Why the fuck are you in my house? Get the fuck out. And he's just like, "Oh, I was in the neighborhood and blah, blah, blah."
So he thought he'd come into her... He had a key because obviously they used to be together.
Yeah.
But he just lets himself in and showers in her apartment, which... We couldn't see him too well at first because he was in the shower. Yeah. So we assumed this was a completely different man than the editor/boss, because she reacts to him completely different. I understand that he has broken into her apartment, but she despised this man. Meanwhile, a few scenes ago, when she was with her boss/editor, who is the same man, it was like a completely different person.
Yeah. It was like, talk about like dividing your home and office life.
Genuinely. It's like Severance.
Yeah. It was a bit crazy. And then they have this like argument, and he's like, "Well, if you really want to be out of your life, then you would have changed the locks." And she's just like, "I was just unorganized.
Yeah.
Give me the key back." And he said, "No, I'm going to keep it as a souvenir." Creepy. Every man in this movie is a creep.
And that's why we said he's a creepy groomer. You say every man in this movie, there's only 2 men.
That's true.
There's only 2 men, and he's one of them. Imagine that's your only choice in the world, is this man, this creepy groomer, or a man-fly. Gun to your head.
Lesbian.
Gun to your head. Lesbian. She's pretty cute.
She was so fit in this movie. She was gorgeous, like, absolutely.
So she kicks out her groomer ex.
Yeah.
And she heads, next scene is her with Seth, the scientist, and he's now attempting to teleport
a baboon,
which, first of all, where did he get a baboon? But whatever.
He's a guy for it.
But also, it makes him even more shady. Like, he's got this like warehouse where he's got all this underground science stuff, and then he's got a baboon.
He's got a baboon guy.
To be fair, he does work with a bigger like science company.
Yeah, he does.
And they probably have like an animal testing lab. They just lended him a monkey.
But why would you start with a monkey? Why wouldn't you do like first like a mouse?
Right? Especially because I'm sure he can get more mice than he can get monkeys.
Baboons are fucking... Shouldn't they be expensive or, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think money isn't necessarily a question to him.
That's true, because he did mention before, he said they like me because I'm cheap. But I'm like, girl, you're testing on baboons instead of mice. Like, how cheap can you be?
He's like, that's the one place that I won't cut the budget.
I won't cut costs here. I will have baboons.
That's my rider. Take it or leave it.
It's like Don't Tell the Bride, where they're like, okay, I will have a budget wedding and I'll have everything, but I will have this one thing, or I will leave that man.
60% of his budget is just on the baboons.
Yeah.
Which is cute. Anyway, he tries to teleport this baboon, and it comes out the other side.
Inside out.
Inside out, yeah.
And it's still kind of making noises and breathing. It's really cool. Like, the effect is insane.
It was very gross. I will say I love the shot because when it teleports to the next pod, it fills with white smoke.
Yeah.
And they slowly lead into the glass to try and get a glimpse of like what's inside. Did it teleport?
Yeah.
And this bloody paw sort of whacks against the glass, which I think is
very
very
jump back, and it's really cool.
Cute. But yeah, it was a disgusting creature when he opens the door. That like it looked like, when I saw it, I literally said, "Oh, it looks like it's been put inside out." Yeah. And then a few sentences later, he confirms it's been made inside out. So they did a good job, because it looked like what I'd imagine a baboon inside out would
I love
like.
the noises it makes as well. Like, it makes like the monkey noises still, but like it's kind of deformed and guttural, and it's
like inside out noises.
Inside out noises. Like, oh yeah, that is how a monkey would sound if it was inside out.
Exactly. So he essentially figures out that the machine can't teleport the monkey because it doesn't understand what it's made of. Like we see earlier on when he teleports the stocking, the machine identifies every ingredient of the stocking. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, polyester, oh,
Blah, blah, blah,
whatever,
blah.
whatever, cotton. And then it's able to teleport it. But because it doesn't know the material of flesh, it
Yeah.
cannot teleport it.
And then she's recording him and interviewing him about it, and he's very distressed and stuff. And he's like, oh yeah, the issue isn't the computer, it's me, because I haven't taught the computer about flesh. And in order to do that, I need to learn more about flesh. How do you think he learns more about flesh?
Well, she teaches him about her flesh.
They're fucking.
He's like laying on his bed, like just like exhausted because obviously he's like hit a wall in his science.
Oh my god, yeah. And then this bit happens where she opens his closet and she's like, why do you only have like the same pairs of clothes over and over again? He's like a cartoon character.
4 pairs of the same outfit.
Yeah.
And he's like, I got it from Einstein. If I don't have to think about what I wear, then I can be more productive. Anyway, she hears this and she goes, whew. So she climbs on his bed and she, again, teaches him about her flesh.
Yeah,
wink, wink.
they have sex.
Yes. And it looks like it lasted a while because the sun sets quite a lot by the time we cut to the end of their little moment.
And then he rolls over and he lands on like a chip thing.
Yeah, that sort of stabs into his back. Quite
Scratches
deep
his back.
too. Like half an inch deep.
Yeah. And it's like, it looks like claw marks a little bit.
Yeah. So she peels it off and he's like, oh, that's where that went. I was looking for that.
That's happened to me a few times. Just lying in bed and you're like, oh, well, look.
He's just got this big cut on his back now.
And that, you should remember that cut because it comes up a lot later.
And of course, like every good woman after sex, she goes, I brought steaks. Do you want one?
Oh my god. Are you kidding me? If a woman brought steaks after sex, marriage.
Amazing.
Marriage.
And that's when, that's when he essentially has an idea. But she says something to him, doesn't she? How did he get the idea?
So basically, oh wait, sorry. While they're after this is specifically not even in the sex scene, but the scene after the sex scene where they're pulling the chip out of the back. There are so many weird like mouth sounds in that bit because she's like kissing the cut and stuff, and she's like, it's like ASMR.
I was like forgetting. That's it. So he turns on steaks or whatever it is, and that's when she starts kissing his skin.
Yeah.
And she says, "It's like a baby. You just want to eat them up."
Yeah, it's like where old ladies pinch babies' cheeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he's like, oh, I have an idea. And so he cooks one of the steaks normally.
Yeah.
And then he teleports a different steak in the machine.
And then cooks
that. And then she doesn't like the taste of the teleported steak.
Because it tastes synthetic. That's when he realizes that the machine is not teleporting the flesh. It's just creating it as much as it can understand it because it doesn't understand it enough.
Yeah.
Which is basically just finding out the same thing he already knew.
I guess to be honest, as someone who doesn't know science, I was very much like, okay, I don't think the director knows science either.
No, it wasn't like, if anything, it gave off scientists the fact that he was like, I know this proves already what I knew, but it just proves whatever I knew with a little bit more information.
Yeah, he testing again. Very scientific.
Yeah.
And
that's when she heads out after they're done with that day. And as she heads out, we see that her ex is around the corner of the warehouse.
Because she is, she leaves him. This is in the middle of the day now.
Yeah, because it's the next morning.
Yeah.
That they cook the steaks.
Mm.
And her ex had stalked her to the warehouse.
Yeah.
And was now watching her leaving.
She goes to a clothing store to buy him a leather jacket.
How long was he there?
He was there all night. Because he says to her, you'd never left this house. You were there all night. She said, I'm onto something big. And he says, his cock?
Yeah. I would have said, yeah.
you should real big.
Yeah. No, I did love that line. It was quite shocking for the film.
Yeah.
It was just crazy that his stalker ass was out there all night. The whole time she was getting butt. Whole time they were eating steaks. Whole time she was eating up he was outside in his car just like watching the door, like seething.
I don't think I'd be a very good stalker because I think I'd fall asleep. I'd fall asleep and then the person I'm stalking would leave and I'd still be waiting there the next day like, I wonder when they're going to come out.
She never left ever again. Jesus, you never left, bro.
And she has enough of him. She shouts at him in the store. She's like, we've broken up now. You do not get to dictate like what I do and who I'm fucking and where I stay the night and blah blah blah. And she buys Seth the jacket.
Yeah, she buys Seth a leather jacket because he only owns 4 pairs of clothing.
Yeah.
And she goes back to him, doesn't she?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's when he attempts to teleport the second monkey.
Yes, he teleports.
He's got a second baboon, which he does say is the brother of the other baboon, because he says, I'm so sorry your brother died.
Yeah.
But it was for a greater cause.
So he teleports the monkey, and this time it works. And the monkey is very effective.
Which, can we just clarify that it worked because he was able to teach the machine about flesh.
After he had sex.
Because she taught him about her flesh. Which, if you ever stuck as a scientist, just have sex and you will get through.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We're free.
Yeah. Can't really do Wednesdays, but, come over.
Well, let's do science.
For science!
Do you like a scientist?
For science! I guess it depends on their personality.
Is that a hot thing? Is scientist hot? Like police officer, firefighter. Is scientist hot?
I think in a different way than a police officer or a firefighter. Although I don't find police officers very hot, but yeah.
Yeah. Not even in like a hate way.
What, a police officer?
Yeah.
Maybe like a murder detective in a TV show.
Ooh.
But there has to be like a very specific type. It's not like, a Bobby on the beat.
What about like an inspector?
Inspector? What do they do?
Like, not like a cigar smoking inspector.
I don't like smoke.
Oh.
It's not, smoking is not sexy to
Why are
me.
we talking about police officer? Scientists. Are scientists hot?
In a like pathetic kind of way.
In a pathetic way?
Like if they're like all nerdy and like, do you know what I mean?
But what if they're like charismatic, like I'm changing the world type scientists?
Well then of course they're hot because they're charismatic.
Yeah.
What about you? What do you think?
I don't know. I feel like we don't get to see enough scientists.
That's true. I don't know any scientists.
We only ever get to see the billionaires who buy their science.
That's true. That's true. That's
and
true.
claim it's theirs.
Yeah. To be fair, we went to an arts uni, so we don't know any scientists. If you're a scientist, please let us know. Are you sexy?
If you're in STEM, send us a picture.
Yeah.
And we'll let you know if you're sexy.
Just comment, I'm a sexy scientist underneath.
Yeah. We take all genders and identities of STEM.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I am a MB in STEM, yes. I am a man in STEM, yes. I am a girl in STEM, yes.
But you have to tell us if you're sexy or not, though.
Yes.
That's the main thing.
How do we get here? Where were we?
Okay, so they're having this breakthrough about the baboon teleporting. He's like, oh my god, I finally figured it out, blah, 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 right? And then they have this cute little moment where they're like, we're going to celebrate, we're going to have the champagne.
Yeah. Champagne look good.
They open this bottle of champagne and they're ordering Chinese takeaway. But then someone slips something through the door and it's an article about him in the magazine she works for. And it's clearly her ex-boyfriend / editor who's trying to like get under her skin and like make her like...
Yeah, he's taking her story and he says he's editing it into this sort of like negative piece about Seth. And so she says she has to go. And Seth is like, why'd you have to go? And she's like, well, I had a life before this and I need to scrape the remnants of it.
Off of my shoe. Which I was like, ooh! Iconic. You know, she likes to sort things out. She wants to do it her way. And I appreciate that because she's very direct. Yeah. Do you know how many like people in horror movies, they just don't tell the truth?
Yeah.
And that is like 99% of the reason that the horror movies have such awful decision making in them is because nobody's telling the truth.
Yeah.
Or they're not believing the truth.
Or they're just really bad at like lying.
Yeah. So she goes and she goes to confront Strathis, and Seth is left alone with the baboon, drunk and kind of upset.
He's spiraling.
He's anxious. He thinks that she's cheating on him with her ex-boyfriend, and she's still...
He's like, I teleported monkey. What more could she want? Like, she's with her ex. Like, it's so obvious she's cheating on me.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, she's with her ex, and the editor's like, I can do what I want. I can edit the story how I want. And she's like, no, you can't. This is my story, and I'm going to do it my way. And he sort of backs off.
She's confronting men in the field, and he is having an anxiety attack, which is, you know what? I feel like most couples they're like that. One of them is like fighting, and the other one is like in the corner like this,
panicking, stressed.
Is that you and Andrew?
No. I don't know which one no, I'm the fighter.
But he's upset, and he's like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna get into the machine and try it without her just to piss her off.
Yeah.
And so he does. He gets into
very drunkenly gets into the.
He drunkenly gets into the pod.
Before he gets into it, he's talking to the baboon,
Yeah.
and there's a fly that starts to fly around the baboon.
Yeah.
And it starts reacting to it, sort of like, oh, what's that? Which
Yeah.
I loved was a cute little establishment of the fly.
Mm-mm.
And he drunkenly gets into the pod.
Also, before this even in certain scenes where something like bad is happening, like a fly noise will play occasionally.
Yeah, but very little though.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate.
Yeah, it's not like overly like it's not unsubtle, but it is like there, which is fun.
So he gets into the pod very drunk, and I love there's a sort of sliding shot that starts on the door that's slowly closing over him and slides round to the side of the pod where there is a small window, and on the window is the fly
crawling on the inside,
and it slowly sort of zooms in as you're sort of questioning, is it in or outside of the glass? Is it in? And you realize it's inside of the pod, and then teleportation.
And it's successful.
Yeah, he comes out the other side. He emerges naked. Well, he was already naked, but he emerges naked from the pod in a cloud of white smoke, glistening, a little sweaty. I did it.
I did it.
Yeah. The baboon, like, mouse drops because he sees Jeff Goldblum naked.
The baboon jumps on him and gives him a cuddle.
Yeah, which is very, very sweet, cute baboon.
Yeah,
I
was always taught that baboons are like really aggressive.
Is it a baboon?
They call it a baboon the entire movie.
Oh, great. Then it is a baboon.
But it didn't have a big red butt.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they... Okay.
He could, like, pet it. Like, it's like a petting, like, nobody's business.
It's a monkey. I don't know. And Veronica comes back, doesn't she? Yeah, she comes back. And...
She wakes him up with a kiss.
Yeah, she does, because he's in it. Yeah, he lives next to his lab, like, in the same building, basically.
Yeah.
So whenever I say, oh, he's in the lab, he's also at his home.
Yeah. He doesn't have, like, a work-life balance. It's all the same.
Oh, my God. I could not
Which,
deal
if
with
you
that.
want to make shit happen and you want to invent teleportation, you have to. Sorry. These are the sacrifices.
I don't want only 4 pairs of clothes, though.
Oh, that is something sexy about scientists.
Yeah.
You can fuck them at work.
You're disgusting.
Wow.
Fuck him in the telepod.
Or I'll sit in the other telepod and then he can teleport into me. Trick shot.
I hate you. Okay, that's awful.
I'm just creative.
You're disgusting.
I'm not in STEM. I'm in the creative arts. So that's my little touch. XOXO Gossip Girl. Sorry.
They make up. They're like, they talk. She's like, I was breaking up with him properly. He was like, oh, I did the machine. And she's like, what? And then he's like, but I did record it for you.
Yeah, she's like, oh, okay, then it's fine.
Yeah, she's like, you did. And then they're like, you know what I mean? They lie in bed together and stuff. And then while they're lying in bed together, he catches a fly in his hand.
Yeah, like he is
like,
completely asleep and the fly flies around him. And he like reaches up and grabs the fly while asleep.
Yeah.
Opens his eyes, lets the fly go, and sort of ponders, how the hell did I do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why won't you just crush it? Like, why you're letting the fly go?
And then he gets up out of bed.
Yeah.
And sort of leaves our interviewer, in bed alone.
Veronica.
Yeah. And then she obviously eventually wakes up, and she hears him making noise in the sort of main living room.
Science room? I don't know.
She follows him out and she sees him acting very peculiar.
He is like weight training. He's, you know, the monkey bars, like you flip over? He's doing that like several times. Yeah.
It's
he's
weird because
lifting
he's like
shit up.
Standing there staring at the wall doing nothing, and then all of a sudden doing this insane workout. Like, it's not like superhero levels, but it's like Olympic levels.
Yeah.
And that's what's impressive. Is like this
is
normal
a scientist dude doing like
Olympic moves,
gymnastics at 2 a.m. in the lab.
He's far stronger than he was before.
Yeah. And he has a theory that the
teleportation unlocked his true potential.
Purified him, unlocked his true potential, something like that. And at this point, it's just a theory, and he's not like fixated on it so much. But he's like, I feel like $1 million. So then they go on a date, and he buys her a necklace from like the market, and they have coffee.
He wears the jacket.
Oh, he wears the jacket, which I thought was sweet. Like, he wore the jacket she bought him. And he buys her the necklace, and she wears that necklace throughout the rest of the film. And they're having coffee together, and he's putting like spoonfuls and spoonfuls and spoonfuls of sugar in it.
And she says, "Do you like coffee with your sugar?"
Yeah. And he's telling her about his theory that he's been purified and stuff. And then it cuts to the next scene where they're having sex.
Wait, no, we skipped over that way too quickly.
Because it's not that long of a scene.
No, but while they're talking, this is when we start to realize that, like, not only, you know, as we saw earlier, is he much stronger, much more flexible, but he's acting erratic. Not only is he putting these, like, tons of spoonfuls into his coffee.
Kind of like a fly, because flies love sugar.
Exactly. But he can't seem to focus on one thing at once. He keeps talking over her. He's acting very sporadic. He speaks very quickly. And his thoughts keep, I wouldn't say changing, but just advancing quickly and constantly. And it's kind of like he's on speed. Yeah. Basically. He's
very much like... At first I thought it was like, oh, it's kind of like cute, like enthusiasm. But looking back on it, I'm like, no, he was just being a fly.
I think this is when she starts to be uncomfortable too. And why she's not completely on board with this like amazing purification that he keeps sort of claiming is because he's acting uncomfortably erratic.
Yeah.
So I just feel like that's really important.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And then the next scene is they're having sex, is it? This movie's really horny. I didn't realise that.
Yeah, they have a ton of sex.
And she's like, we've been going for hours. I'm too tired. Blah, blah, blah,
mind you, she's like, they're both sweaty as hell on the couch.
Yeah.
Like, they've been fucking for hours. And she's like, how are you, like, not tired yet? And he's trying to do more.
He's like, please, baby, let's go more.
And we see in this sex scene, too, that, like, I don't know if it was the prolonged sex or the transformation, but he's, like, broken out into hives on his face.
Yeah, he's got acne.
Yeah, it's, like, suddenly got this, like, acne on his face.
And she feels his back, and there's, like, prickles in that wound that happened earlier.
The cuts on his back.
Yeah.
And they look like very thick, coarse hairs. Not very long hairs, but, like, they're just sticking out like spikes.
Yeah, almost like bristles kind of thing.
It almost looks like he had stitches done, and they would sort of, like...
The string from the stitches was sticking out.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of looks like that a bit. And he's like, oh, I'm looking forward to a hairy body. I thought that was, like, the best part of becoming older because I'm always too boyish, is what he said.
Yeah.
And she was just like, no, you should get rid of it.
He's trying to sell her this idea of the transformation, and he tries to convince her to get into the teleporter.
Oh, she chops his hair off. The backs of his hair.
I thought she said later.
I don't know. Mine says sex, hair wound, chops hairs, crazy Seth breakup.
Sex.
Yeah.
Hair wound.
So they're having sex, and then she finds the hairs, and then she chops. She literally, he's sitting at the table now because they've decided not to have any more sex, and
she's decided.
Yeah, he's like,
he would have more if he could get it.
Is he eating a pint of ice cream or something?
Something sweet.
And he
ice cream, I believe.
And she goes behind his back, and she like finds like scissors, and she's chopping these hairs off, and they look really tough and like hard to chop.
Yeah. She like saves them.
Yeah, she does. She does save them because they're like weird. And she realizes something up. She says, Seth, the machine's not like doing what you're doing. Something is wrong. You look kind of worse.
Which honestly, in this sort of point, she's a better scientist than him, because she understands, yeah, sure, the teleportation was a success. We now have to observe and question everything about your health. There could be unforeseen drawbacks, regardless of like the fly. She doesn't even know about the fly. No one does at this point. But she knows that that's something you have to do. Whereas he's like, no, it's done. Everything's great. There could be nothing bad. There's no testing needs to be done. It's quite ridiculous.
It's quite egocentric kind of thing.
Yeah. It's also lacking in a sort of pondered thought, which makes sense for his like current sort of erratic state that focuses on what's in front of it rather than
what he's done.
The greater picture.
Yeah, definitely.
All he can think about is having sex.
All he can think about
is why
having sex and eating sweets, which is so valid.
Which, mind you, is why he wants her to go through the teleport as well, so that she can keep up with him, in his words.
Yeah, she said, we'll be the ultimate couple if you go through the machine too, because then, you know what I mean, it will pull out your full potential, blah, blah, blah.
And he specifically says, and I won't tire you out so much.
Do you know there are so many men online that will claim to do the same thing, and they just won't?
Because they ain't Jeff Goldblum in the fly.
They're not fly material.
she refuses to. Sorry, she refuses to get into the pod because you know she obviously is like,
and she's scared.
Rightfully so, because you have to observe the first, you know, human subject that went through first.
Absolutely.
She needs more information, but also she's scared, like you said, and he gets really pissed at her. He crashes out again, like he always does whenever he sort of gets a no from her. But now it's like
intense,
exacerbated because of like his current erratic state.
He manhandles her. He literally pulls her out of his place and says, "Don't come back."
Yeah, he's like, "I'm going to find another woman who's actually willing."
It's disgusting.
Yeah, it's really gross. And she's obviously like, she cries in the hallway and then like walks away. It's a very long shot.
Yeah.
From the end of the hallway of her crying at the door and then
She
slowly
really liked
walking
him.
down the hallway.
Yeah.
But it was just a bit like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, it was a long shot.
It was, to be fair, I remember you saying this as well at the time. Oh yeah, so he goes to a bar to find a woman who will do what he wants, basically.
Yeah. So he finds a woman at the actual bar.
Yeah.
Who he thinks looks easy.
Yeah, and she's like, "Oh well, I hope Mikey wins the arm wrestling because I like him tonight." And he's like, "Maybe I should get in on the arm wrestling too." And so he decides to arm wrestle them.
He bets $100 to
$100
convince the guys to do it.
And he said, "And I get to take the lady home with me tonight as well." And she's like, "Who said that you could do that?" And he's just like.
Yeah, and the other guy, the guy that she likes tonight, is like, "Come on, what's her name?" Let's imagine it's Betsy. He goes, "Come on, Betsy, it's an easy 100."
Yeah, I don't remember that.
That's what he says to her.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause she's like, "Who says you got to take me home?" He's like, "Come on, Betsy, it's an easy 100."
Yeah. And anyway, so he arm wrestles the guy that she likes, and
he's losing at first.
Clear liquid starts coming out of his hands, and it kind of.
Yeah, it's like secreting because of like the sort of pressure of the hands holding together. It's very gross.
It's like looks like glue.
Yeah.
And then he snaps the guy's wrist.
Yeah, he starts winning and then snaps the guy, and the bone from his wrist, you know, comes out of his wrist, and he starts screaming. And instead of like reacting, Seth, our scientist, just gets up, grabs
the woman, and goes.
And he's like, "Okay, let's go now." And she's like, "Okay, can we walk a little bit?
Can we go to a few more bars first? It's too late early to go." And the next shot is them walking back from the bars, and it's morning.
Yeah.
Maybe she's gonna tire him out.
They've been out all night, and they go back to his place, and she's trying to go up all the stairs, and she's like, "There's no elevator," and he's like, "You want an elevator?" So he picks her up, and runs her up the stairs because obviously his strength is getting like more and more. It seems at this point now it is getting like unhuman.
Yeah. Like he doesn't break a sweat, even though to be fair, everyone in this movie
running up the stairs while holding her.
Everyone in this movie is always shiny and glistening, but like he doesn't break a sweat more than normal.
Yeah, and like just to give you an idea of like how easily he's going up these steps, I believe the way they did the shot is he obviously picks her up and starts walking up the steps, and then they cut 2 shots but you can only see him from the knee and below going up the steps, and it's just a guy like running up the stairs. So that's the speed of
I reckon they probably maybe did that like a mannequin or something, because there's a few shots of him from behind with the woman and you can't see her face.
Of course, but most of the shots showing off the speed are shot from the knee below. Just like, look how fast he's going, where he's holding this lady, and she's like, "Woo!"
She's having a great time. She's like, "Wow, I'm gonna have the ride of my life."
I get it. Cut to her sat on a chair.
Yeah.
She's still got her denim jacket on.
But she's got her top off.
Yeah, so she's just got her boobs out underneath the denim jacket, and she's in her panties.
Yeah, her legs spread.
I think she still has her heels on, weirdly. I don't know why I have like a memory of her having her heels on.
She's sitting across from a teleport.
And she what film is it where she like crosses the legs and then uncrosses them?
I don't know. But this woman, she just spreads them.
It's not Fatal Attraction. I can't remember. Anyway, she does that where she like has her legs crossed and she uncrosses them to reveal her hoo-ha.
Yeah. We don't get to see it. She's in her underwear.
Yeah.
But she's sitting in front of one of the teleports, and then Jeff Goldblum emerges from it. So he's just teleported in front of her
to show her what it does. And she's so impressed.
And she's like, "Are you a magician?" And he says, "Yes."
Mind you, I love the shot because it's filmed from behind the seat after she uncrosses her legs.
Yeah.
So all you see is her like sat on the chair, spreading her legs for the pod. And then Jeff Goldblum's naked body emerging from the pod between the legs. Sorry. I love it so much.
It's a good shot.
He climbs on top of her naked and then just starts humping into her. Her underwear's still on, but he's like humping
his underwear. No, it's not. Sorry.
No, hers is.
Yeah.
His isn't. He's got his naked butt out, but he's humping nakedly into her underweared body and like really feeling it. And she's feeling it too.
Yeah, she's thinking, okay, this is just like a magic trick and then some like regular sex. Yeah. And then he's like, "You should get in the machine."
Yeah. Before that, mind you, it's implied that they like were fucking for ages.
Yeah.
Because it cuts to them like now in his bed. It looks like they've been going for ages. But look, she looks great though. So she did find a lady that could keep up with him because she was keeping up. And she's like, "You want to get breakfast?" Because they've been fucking all night.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It's been 2 days at this point. They've been fucking. I swear. And then she's like, "No, it's your turn to go into the pod." And she's like, "I don't want to." He's like, "You're going in the pod," which I'm like, she
sounds like a
probably
robot.
saw this coming anyway, right? Like she went home with a strange man. She knew she was gonna get murdered.
Easy 100.
Oh, wait, they didn't know in the 80s. I don't know. That's what like people in the 80s keep telling me. It's like, oh, it's different in my day. We didn't have any pedophiles. And I'm like, oh, I don't think that's true.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
Oh, you can't bring your kids anywhere nowadays. Oh, it was so much easier in the 80s. It was so much safer. I'm like, no, you can't bring your kids anywhere nowadays because of what happened in the 80s.
Yeah, the 80s is the reason we can't do nothing now.
Just because you weren't preventing your kids getting molested in the 80s doesn't mean that they weren't. Sorry.
Yeah. And she's like, I don't really want to go in the pod, I'm afraid. And then Veronica turns up and she goes, you should be afraid.
Yeah.
You should be very afraid.
Veronica turns up and saves her. She's like, let her go.
And she looks, he's like, she asks like what's going on. And he's like, oh yeah, did I tell you? I live with my mother too. Fucking rude
It's like, hey
ass
mom,
bitch.
meet Betsy.
Rude ass bitch, man.
What a bitch.
You were a practicing virgin until about 3 days ago.
Yeah, you were a fucking loser nerd. Oh, I feel like I just made a definitive opinion on whether or not scientists are sexy. Anyway, you were a loser nerd. And like now, all of a sudden you're this like...
Sex god?
Yeah, because you fucked 2 women in your life. Ooh. He's like, I've had 2 girls now, which is more than 1. Multiple women? I'm a
Chad now.
I don't know who he thinks he is. Oh, he thinks he's Jeff Goldblum.
He thinks he's just Goldblum.
So the easy woman, I don't. Sorry to call her that, but the easy woman.
She's like, I don't think she's comfortable with the idea of actually cheating on someone. Do you know what I mean?
Oh no, not at all.
So she leaves.
But
She's
also,
like,
it's just too messy now. She's like, okay, I'm getting out of here. So she just leaves, and Veronica stays with Seth, and she's like, what are you doing to yourself? Like, this isn't right. Like, blah blah blah.
you look awful.
Yeah, his acne has progressed so much now.
Yeah.
Like, it's like crazy. Like, he looks really really bad.
And then she said, I had those hairs analysed. They had insect hairs. They looked like insect hairs, but we couldn't identify like the genus, basically.
Well, they identify it as like belonging to an insect.
Yeah.
Didn't know which insect, but it was belonging to an insect, even though it came from his body. That's disgusting.
Yeah. And he doesn't believe her, I swear. He doesn't believe her, and he kicks her out again. But then he does check the computer afterwards.
Do you know what I just thought of?
What?
You know how there's like foot freaks,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And there's things like wiki feet and stuff, right?
Wiki feet?
Yeah.
What's that?
It's like a Wikipedia, but it's like specifically of images of like celebrity or influencer feet. So anyone like a public image person, people will like find a clip or a video where they showed their feet, and they will like screen grab it and like put it on this website so that you can find the feet of any celebrity you want.
Oh my god, so if we become famous, we have to really keep our feet covered.
But I was just thinking,
Yeah.
here's a little idea for you people at home. If you wanted to start a podcast,
Yeah.
do you think that feet people would watch a podcast where like you record like a normal podcast, but the camera is just on your feet the whole time?
Maybe that's what we should do.
Just like 2 sets of feet, just like talking to, like, would they go for that?
I don't know. Why did you think of that?
You keep this in. Just find a place for it, but keep this in.
Okay. Yeah.
I want to know. Someone do that,
Yeah.
and then let me know if you make money,
Yeah.
and we'll collab.
But he's like, his body is like super sensitive now. He's like reacts to every touch like crazily. And he, what's it called? Sorry. Veronica tries to help him, gets kicked out again. Yeah. Tries to shave. Oh yeah, he attempts to shave because there's more of these coarse hairs growing on his face, but obviously shorter.
Mm-hmm.
And in patches, and he tries to shave it, but his skin is so sensitive and the hairs are so tough that it just doesn't work.
And it's like an electric razor.
Yeah.
And it cannot get through the hairs. And he like dashes it into the bathtub and just like smashes into a million pieces.
Yeah.
And that's when he starts looking, because he's examining himself in the mirror, and he starts looking at his face, and he bites down on his nail,
And he pulls it off.
and his nail slides off his finger with like a gooey slip.
This
that's when
scene's
he
really got to me.
Looks down at his finger with now missing a nail, and it's sort of swollen, so he sort of squeezes on it slightly, and a bunch of that sort of fluid we saw from earlier squirts out of his finger onto the mirror, kind of like popping a zit into the mirror. And he's obviously disgusted, but not as shocked as he should have been. And he takes some tissue and he wipes off all the gloop off the fucking mirror, which is ugh. And then he
does it to his other nails.
Yeah, he goes to his other finger, peels off another nail, squeezes out a bit more fluid. It's absolutely
it just feels a little gross.
I will say the effects were really good. The effects were really good. And I always think that films from like, older films, as much as like we could talk about obviously like computer effects, right?
Yeah.
Have advanced. But as far as physical effects go, I think that they've like sort of hit a peak of just being very good, because the physical effects have just been good for a very long time. And so I think that they were just as good, physical effects were just as good then as they are now.
Yeah.
But the lower quality of filming, I think, of like cameras helped sell it even more. And there's something about this, like,
it makes it feel more grimy. Because I think we were having this discussion before where we were talking about how we had very visceral reactions to both films, to this film and then The Substance, which we watched a few months ago,
which is another body horror.
Yeah, and it's also a great body horror film. But we were talking about it, and The Substance didn't affect me in the same way because it felt cleaner.
Yeah. Which is part of The Substance, like, Yeah,
it's part of the film's plot, but it's also part of the way the film was made and how crisp the cameras were.
Because it's very clinical.
Clinical the lighting was. But in the 80s and 90s, like, it felt like the camera was grimy, the lights were, like, yellow,
and everything always looks dirty.
Yeah, even if it's clean.
Yeah, so even his hands, like, when you're watching the gross goo, like, his fingers look nasty, they look dirty, they look filthy. Whereas a lot in The Substance, everything feels like it's happening on, like, almost like a medical table.
Yeah.
Everything is clean, clinical, sterile.
And when we're using The Substance as an example, but obviously that film specifically does that on purpose, but there are other like body horror films from like the 2010s and 2020s that are like that too. Do you know what I mean? And not always intentionally. Yeah.
But I just think that with a film like The Fly in the 80s, I feel like it's semi-intentional and semi-not intentional. It's just a product of its time.
It's serendipitous.
And there you go. But it just comes off grosser. I don't know why. I think also already we know and we associate, because we know the part of the film before you go into it. We know associate with The Fly, and I think that as humans we associate flies with being disgusting and gross. And so when we're seeing this like liquid and all this gross stuff happening, we're associating it with like fly juice, fly liquid. I think that really adds this disgusting element too. It's not just body gore; it's also just filthy,
gloopy,
it's dirty, it's wrong.
I love gloopy effects in
which
films.
Again also turns your stomach, because I would definitely be like affected by body horror usually in a way that's like I'm uncomfortable, like my feet hurt, my fingers hurt, like
I'm literally, when you were describing the things happening, I literally my fingers start tingling and I was like, ah.
Exactly. But my stomach isn't always turned by body horror. Like I definitely get uncomfortable when I get the finger feet thing, but I not always like disgusted and my stomach is turned. But with this film it was
hard to take notes.
It wasn't just uncomfortable and like gross, it was disgusting and dirty.
It was gloopy. CGI could never replace the gloop.
No,
it was hard to take notes because my fingers felt like really, when you get uncomfortable and your fingers feel a little tingly and your joints feel weird. That's what I was experiencing when I was making notes. It was awful. He pulls his fingernails off and he puts gardening gloves on now because he can't fucking, you know what I mean?
So that's when he looks at the computer.
He goes on the computer.
And he starts to look up the history of his teleportation.
Yeah.
And he's looking through his like, because the machine sort of analyzes the materials and the DNA that it's transferring. And he sees that there's something there that isn't quite him. But it's such small percentages of it. And he's wondering what it is. So he's like getting the machine to analyze it, etc., find out what it is. And the machine identifies it as a fly. But I will say the way it reveals this is it does all these like close-up images of like a fly until it finally shows a final image of the fly. And I'm like, how did it get a picture of the... What? I don't quite understand the science here.
I think it looked cool though.
It did, but it was giving like, oh, this is what they thought science in the future would be like.
Yeah, kinda, yeah.
But it could analyze DNA and then create the creature it came from.
Yeah.
Because it was also an illustration of a fly. So like this machine just AI arted a fly.
AI arted a fly. Chat GPT, make a fly.
That's genuinely what it did. It was actually funny, but that's what he freaks out. And he sort of looks into like what happened to the fly.
Yeah.
And it says that they fused together, and he's like, did it like how did it fuse?
Yeah.
And it said that it was genetically fused
Into his body. He didn't absorb it, and then the fly will go away after a while.
Yeah.
They're together. Their DNA is fused together.
On
they
a molecular
are one.
level.
They are one. They cannot be divided now.
He now has fly DNA in his DNA strands, in his helixes.
Because my thought was, why don't you just go back in the machine and but just tell the computer to recreate you both into separate beings?
Because it probably would be able to.
Yeah.
But it has fused him at a genetic level, which
means basically the machine considers him like as a different being now.
Yeah.
Which he now considers himself.
Which I do think he could have still found a way to do it. He just have to like improve or change the machine. But he just, I guess, wasn't in a state to.
4 weeks later, we get we watch Veronica. She's on her desk working, and she gets a call from Seth, and he says, "Come over. I want to see you. I apologize for everything I said. Something's bad has happened. Please come to see me."
I will say this phone call is creepy for us. Because it does feel like that phone call that happens in, you know, like in a scary movie when someone's going through a transformation or someone is untrustworthy and they send out that phone call being like, "I just want to see you. Could you come here?" Like, blah, blah, blah. And you think it's a trap. So I will say in that moment, my energy was up thinking like something bad's going to happen.
Yeah.
Which inevitably nothing does. But that was my first instance in the film where I had a spike of like, because, you know, it is a horror film.
Yeah.
That was my first instance of like fear. And that was the part of the film to me where it starts becoming a horror.
I think fear is not always the end game of horror, even though like it's one of the bigger things in it. Sometimes the aim of a horror film is just to make you feel uncomfortable. And whilst I really wasn't very scared in this horror movie, I wasn't comfortable the entire time.
Well, I agree, but I just didn't feel that necessarily before that, even when he was pulling out his fingernails.
Oh, when he's pulling out his fingernails, I absolutely felt like it was a horror film.
See, I didn't.
That's fair enough.
Yeah, I will say some of the stuff that happens later, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
Yes, but at that point, that was, I don't know. I felt like that to me, I wasn't there yet because that was the foreplay.
Okay. So she goes to see him, and he looks awful. He looks a lot worse.
He's got like lumps and bumps in his face. They kind of look like cysts, but they're not.
Yeah.
They just
his skin is like falling off.
You know, like those like spots that you get that are under the skin, especially like the forehead ones under the really thick skin. Have you ever had one of those? Like,
I had one yesterday.
Imagine your entire head covered in them.
Yeah.
Your entire face just.
Oh, that sounds so uncomfortable.
But it also like veins were really protruding.
Yeah, veins. He was very red. Like it kind of looked inflamed, but also very dry. Like weirdly enough, like his skin. He like vomits at one point, and his ear falls off.
Yeah. Wait. It's actually funny because he comes out and his mobility has gotten terrible. He's using 2 crutches and he's wearing gardening gloves because obviously his nails have come off and his hands are secreting a weird fluid.
Yeah.
And he pulls out a donut to eat it and he vomits on it, which to him, he doesn't even seem fazed by it because I think that's how he's been sort of eating.
I think that this is the point where he starts eating like that.
Well, because she reacts like disgusted and then he looks up and he goes,
"That's disgusting."
Oh, that's disgusting. Like he almost like realizes that's disgusting.
Yeah.
To me. But you know, it's never, you know, clarified. But
and his ear falls off.
But the disgusting thing is after his ear falls off, she like hugs him. I was like, I don't know, I couldn't hug him.
Mushing her face up against
She
the ear
mushes
wound.
her face up against the gross, and when his ear falls off, there's like weird liquid in his ear that's like sticky and pussy. Like she rubs her face up against the pus hole that was once his ear as she hugs him. Like, I don't get those people. Those are the type of people that like, you know, it's like only a mother could love. Like she's that mother that can only love that thing.
It's so gross.
You know what? That's real love right there, though, I will say.
That is real love right there. Do you know what I would say? As much as I didn't buy the riz of him in the beginning, I did buy the relationship the whole way, like the rest of the way through. After like the first 15 minutes, yeah.
I agree. So after, you know, obviously seeing him in this horrible state, she's like, you know, her emotions everywhere. She needs to speak to someone. So where does she go?
Her ex.
Her groomer ex.
Her groomer ex / boss / editor / I don't know.
Friend. Only friend.
Only fucking friend.
/ ex-roommate. Like, genuinely. Anyway, so she's in his office and she's like, oh, it's so bad. Like, you don't understand. If you saw him, you don't understand. Like,
no, they're in the apartment, I think.
Are they in the apartment?
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't matter. The point is, she's like, if you saw him, you'd understand. And he's like, well, then film him for me. Which, by the way, he was like, no help. I don't know why she chose him to come. Because she has no friends. She doesn't know anyone else in this film. She doesn't know a single person.
There are 3 characters in this film, if you don't count the people at the bar.
I think he groomed her. And she has no friends and no support system. And that's how, you know, when she meets the scientist, she's finally able to put her foot down on him. And he hates it. That's why he hates the scientist, because it's the first time, you know, she's ever had somewhere else to go. Anyway, the point is, he's like, you should film it. So she goes back to Seth with the intention of filming him.
Yeah. And he looks worse. He's climbing on the wall now.
Well, he looks worse than better at the same time.
Yeah, because he is more mobile now.
The way I would describe it is he sort of comes out the other side of his transition. His body definitely looks worse. Like, as in, he looks less human.
Yeah.
The lumps have like spread to his arms, but he no longer looks like he's shriveling up and dying. The veins have regressed in his skin, even though his skin has now changed to a like sort of brown, grey, orange, weird color.
Yeah.
But the shape of his limbs have also morphed.
Yeah.
But he feels better. Like, before he was using crutches, now he's climbing on the walls.
He's literally climbing on the walls.
And his attitude has changed too. He went from thinking, I have cancer, I might die soon, into thinking, I'm getting good at this.
I'm a new being.
Yeah. And that's when he's like, yeah, we should film this. You know, we have to document this.
We have to document.
So
Brundle. He called himself Brundlefly, because his last name is Seth Brundle.
Yeah.
So he called himself Brundlefly.
Which is, like, cute. But he sets up the camera in front of the dining table and sits down with a box of donuts and some Peeps or something.
Yeah.
Because all he eats now is sugary foods.
Yeah.
And he's like, come on, like, film this. Like, it looks a bit close. So she like is like, okay. So she sets up the camera, you know, focuses in on him. Yeah. And he's like, this is Brundlefly, and this is how I have to eat food. And we then cut to the ex in her apartment watching the video that we just saw getting filmed.
Of him vomiting on the food and then having to re-put it back in his mouth. Because he vomits kind of stomach acid on it, or like, he calls it enzymes and stuff, that will like kind of digest the food out of his body so that he can then put it back into his body.
Which is what flies do.
And then, that's how flies eat.
Well, he says he slaps it back up, which I kind of want to see. We don't get to see it.
I don't want to see it.
They don't show it to you. So you see her starting to film. You hear him... Is it a J cut or is it a thingy cut, the opposite?
So is it the audio first before video, or is it it's an L cut?
The audio continues from shot 1 into shot 2.
Oh, then it's J cut.
Yeah, okay, it's the J cut. So he starts describing it as we see her starting to film, and it cuts into the next shot of the ex watching it, where the audio continues of him describing it. And then we hear him vomiting onto thing, but all we get to see is the ex's reaction to it, which he looks disgusted.
And he's watching in the apartment, and then he goes to talk to Veronica. Veronica is crying because she's pregnant.
Yeah.
Veronica is pregnant with the fly baby.
Yeah. All she's been fucking is Seth. Well, she doesn't know that she's pregnant with a fly baby because she fucked him before and after he went through the teleporter.
So is it going to be regular Seth or is it going to be fly Seth? Yeah. We don't know.
And she doesn't know, which is what is freaking her out so much.
I would be freaked out too.
Which, I mean, there is something to say about this film touching on the topic of abortion.
It's a kind of a very pro-choice film.
Yeah. But I will say specifically, especially, I will say I found... So she has a lot of feelings about her pregnancy. And at one point, which we'll get more specific to in a moment, but she is very much, I need this thing out of me. I don't want this thing in me.
Yeah, the entire time. And when
she says that, but this particular scene... where she's with her ex, and she's like, I want this thing out of me. I can't have it growing inside of me. It makes me uncomfortable. That very much felt reminiscent of like someone who wants an abortion because of maybe a thing like assault, etc.
Yeah.
Where they feel like something inside of them is a further breaching on their consent and body autonomy, etc.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I don't think that those feelings are exclusive to those people, but yes.
No, of course, but it felt a little on the nose.
Yeah.
Because it was specifically tied to the person who impregnated her.
Yeah.
And that being the reason why she's so disgusted by what's inside of her. Which is why it felt tied so much to someone being assaulted and feel that way. It was a little on the nose, I think. But I do wonder, is so on the nose, was it intentional though?
I think that it was on the nose and intentional. I think that I liked how direct it was about it. And I liked that I liked the way that they used the word abortion. And I like
Yeah.
the way that she's very direct about it. And she says, I don't want this thing inside me. She's very, like, unsubtle, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because, you know what I mean? This is in the 80s. Like, people weren't going around saying, I want an abortion, like, loudly.
Yeah. And it wasn't even, a question of, like, what do I do? She was very much like...
She knows what she wants to do.
She, at least from the very, like, beginning, knew how she felt.
Yeah.
But there was never... Even the doctor at one point says, I sense some hesitation. Maybe you should get some tests done. And then she's like, I don't want tests. I want this thing out of me.
Yeah.
And I very much appreciated how
That's later on in the film.
unwavering her thought was. I know I just jumped ahead, but, like, I feel like it was important to this discussion.
No, yeah, absolutely. I'm just telling the viewers that's later.
Yeah.
I
just wanted to apologize to the viewers for jumping ahead.
No, it's cool, I think. She actually has a nightmare about giving birth to this fly baby, and she has a nightmare about giving birth to a giant maggot.
Yeah, which the effects in that, again, done very well.
Done very well. And I like that it's like, this movie isn't afraid of being seen as kind of cheesy or goofy in any way, and because it's not afraid of that, it manages to do stuff that in other movies would be seen as cheesy and goofy, but it does it, like, because it's so unapologetic about it, you don't see it that way at all. You know?
I agree. I think a lot of films would have just been like, oh, we can imply it, rather than just like, no, make the giant maggot.
Yeah, make the giant
wiggling between her legs.
Exactly. And it doesn't, like... I know there were some people who I saw on Letterboxd review it and say it looks cheesy, but to me personally, I didn't find it cheesy at all.
I didn't find it cheesy either.
Yeah. And I thought it was a really good, like, nightmare done, especially in, like, the way she acts in it is terrified, because in the nightmare, Strathis is with her, and he basically kind of forces her to go through with it.
Yeah, giving birth to it. And she's, like, again, unwavering. She doesn't want to.
She says, I don't want to do this, I can't do this, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And she's terrified, and I think she does really well in this movie.
She does. Although
Gina
she
Davis is in this movie.
She has a habit of, like... catching her face at a very specific angle, and in a lot of I don't know if you noticed this, but a lot of scenes she wants to be seen sort of like a 3/4 angle.
Yeah.
And you'll see her walking towards other characters with the corner of her face.
That might be a Cronenberg thing. I don't know if it's a Gina Davis
It might
thing.
be. I don't know who it is that was directing it that way, but
Yeah.
they wanted a specific angle of her face like every time. Like she had a good side, and they were like, don't get her from any other side.
Yeah. But it was a good night. I liked that it was a nightmare as well. Well,
Which it was a good side. Let me just clarify.
yeah. And then it's the morning, and Seth's teeth all fall out, which we get to watch in great detail.
They just pop out
They do.
like nothing.
They literally fall into the sink.
Yeah. Mind you, what I will say
Because they're useless to him now, I guess.
as you're probably gathering from like the scenes we're describing now, this part of the film just sort of becomes her going back and forth from his house.
Yeah.
And him changing. And as he does, up until this point, he's actually been quite himself mentally. And it's just been a physical change, which was such an unusual feeling, especially when he was climbing on the walls at that point, because his teeth had changed. They hadn't fallen out yet, but they had turned inwards and they looked terrifying.
Yeah.
He looked like a monster, but he was himself.
Yeah. It was interesting because before, when he was more human, he kind of felt more monstrous when he was, you know what I mean, running around fucking people and breaking people's wrists and stuff. Yeah. But then he's kind of, once he realises that it's not like a purifying thing and he realises what actually happened, he goes back to being himself, but his body changes then for him.
Exactly. And it's such a weird thing where you see him and your instinct is to fear him and be uncomfortable. But he's not a threat.
He's talking, he's laughing, he's talking about his death, and he's talking about things like it's the weather. I guess, to be fair, there was a 4 weeks that we don't get to see him, and we don't see that change. It is kind of like a little bit sudden for us. Yeah. But I think that maybe in those 4 weeks he kind of came to terms with it a little bit more.
But at this point, his teeth are falling out.
Yes, his teeth fall out, and
he collects them.
He does. He collects them and puts them in the cabinet. He says that it's becoming a natural history museum of Brundlefly.
Because it's got like his nails in it, his missing ear.
Yeah.
I think it had like a finger or something weird.
Yeah. And Veronica comes over to tell him.
Yeah. Which, by the way, at this point, his entire body has morphed into something hideous. He kind of looks like. Did you guys see that that weird little grey alien that they found in Mexico like last year or the year before?
No.
Yeah, if you've seen that, he kind of looks like that, but orange. Or if you have seen the substance, he's kind of looking like Monstero
Elizasu, yeah.
But like a skinnier version.
Yeah, definitely. They're having this discussion, and Veronica is crying, and like, you know what I mean? She's scared, and she wants to tell him that she's pregnant, but she doesn't. And he says, leave. And he has this it's quite beautiful the way it's written, and he has this speech, and he has a few lines in it that I'd like to read.
Oh, okay.
He says, "I was an insect who dreamt he was a man, and now it's over." And then he also says, "I'll hurt you if you stay," and that's the thing. And the thing. He's like, he still loves her, and the last like bit of human in him wants her to be safe more than he wants her comfort.
Yeah, I also thought that was just so good because it was almost like a confirmation of suspicion. Because like I said, this whole time we felt like he's turning to this monster, but he seems so normal, and we feel so uneasy. We feel like we can't trust him, but again, he seems fine. And especially in this scene, there was something about the distance between them. Every time she had gone to see him, she almost ends up further away from him. Like when she first comes to see him, and she hugs him, she literally squishes her face up against his ear. The next time when he's climbing on the ceiling, he wants her to film him eating. There's a table between them. There is space between them. And by this point, she is in a completely different room and he's in the bathroom.
They're like across the because it's a kind of open plan place.
Yeah.
Across the thing from each other.
And they're talking from across that space. And his space is growing between them. And it is like, oh, it's because they're coming apart. But it's also because of this space that's necessary for her safety, it feels like.
Yeah.
It's all very symbolic.
Definitely.
And I think that when that space happens at this point, it feels very eerie and it's like there's a reason for this space. And when he says that line of, "You need to get out of here and never come back again," and he says, "I'm afraid that..."
He says, "I'll hurt you if you stay."
Yeah. And he says that you're like, okay, this is the point now of which he is becoming he's become a final threat.
And he doesn't trust himself at this point.
And if you got to trust himself...
So she leaves, and her Strathis is waiting for her in the car downstairs, and she says, "I would like an abortion now." He says, "It's the middle of the night, let's do this in the morning." She says, "No, you have a hookup with," because he knows like all the doctors and medical professionals and stuff because of their magazine.
Yeah.
And she says, "I want one now, and you're going to get me one now." And he agrees. He takes her to the hospital. And this is where the doctor comes and says, "You're very hesitant. Do you want us to do tests?" And she says, "Tests won't get it out of me."
Yeah. She's not hesitant at all, which... I thought the doctor's reaction was very like
it's typical
accurate,
man.
you know.
Yeah.
Like, well, you're hesitant. Maybe we should, you know. And obviously, he is being reasonable in the sense that he is like, "Oh, let's just do it in the morning," because having an abortion at that time of night,
like that's gonna be suspicious, and also like, so in some cases, it's impossible.
Yeah.
You usually can't get an abortion, like, you know.
Exactly.
But
the doctor eventually agrees, and he has her set up in a separate room, you know, ready, sitting on the medical table.
But we had seen that Brundlefly was watching their conversation from the roof.
He stalked her from his lab.
And he breaks the window and he takes her onto the roof.
Yeah.
And
he smashes through it like Jeepers Creepers.
Definitely. He literally carries her around and stuff. And he says some things that are like understandable but also a bit manipulative, because he says things like, because after this, like, you know what I mean, he's had this beautiful conversation with her, you can see the kind of desperation has kind of taken over even the human side of him now, where he says, "But that will be the last part of me that was still Seth."
Yeah, he's like, "Why are you getting rid of that?
Yeah,
that's all that's left of human me, and you want to destroy it."
Yeah.
He basically asks her to keep it.
Yeah.
And she says, I'm not keeping it."
Yeah.
And he says, "That's too bad."
He says, "That's too bad."
And he repeats himself and says, "That's too bad."
Yeah.
And when he repeats himself, you realize it's not him accepting that, oh, okay, she's really getting rid of it. It's him letting her know that your answer was wrong.
Yeah.
And
that's
now you're
bad.
going to be unhappy with what's going to happen.
Well, whilst the human part of Seth will probably accept that bit and say that's too bad and be a little disappointed, the fly instinct to procreate and reproduce overtakes that, and therefore her decision to terminate isn't acceptable to that fly part of his brain now, and she takes her to the lab.
I love interpreting that as like, because the fact that he says "that's too bad" twice, as if his first reaction is the last of his humanity reaction, and the second reaction is speaking from the insect. Yeah, I love that. That was such a good. Well done.
Thank you.
That was really cute. Yeah.
Thanks.
I'm not minimizing that. Genuinely, that was like. Oh.
That's how I interpreted it personally, because
Yeah.
I kind of assumed it was like kind of two parts of him, and because they're fusing more and more and more, usually like the fly was taking more instinctual and like the bodily part, right, taking that over from Seth, but now the fly's also taking over his mind a little bit, and you know, I mean, it's all instinct, right? That's why he needed to fuck 20 times a day and you know, reproduce and all
I mean,
that
it's
kind
like
of
he
stuff.
says in his monologue that you were quoting, that insects don't really necessarily have politics.
Yeah.
That they don't have feeling, they don't have empathy.
They're brutal.
They're brutal. And that's exactly what he is now.
Yeah. So he takes her to his lab again. She's kind of put up on this like high thing that she can't get down from. And Strathis comes back to get her, and he has a shotgun. And so at this point, we kind of debate like who's going to be the like real hero of this, because Strathis at this point has been kind of creepy, manipulative, grooming, and like just, you know what, like morally gross, right?
Yeah.
But Seth at this point is not himself. He's transforming into this like even as we're watching him, like the transformation is getting faster and faster, and he's kind of turns into an exoskeleton in this like final scene.
We almost see the position of the two men swap, where the guy who was sort of the villain of her past becomes sort of the hero wielding his weapon, and you know the guy who wasn't necessarily the hero but was the positive male in her life has now become the villain. And one who was saving the other from the other is now saving the other from the one another.
Yeah.
I love it, son sister.
Do you know what? It's a very symbolic film. It's like one of those films you can just kind of like film school, like digest and discuss, and I metaphors here and this and this and this.
I think it's particularly easy too because there's so little characters that the dynamics are very clear.
I like that though. I like it when films have only a few characters. I just feel like it's fun.
Yeah.
He has a shotgun and he's like unpacking it and he gets it ready and it's like finally ready to use. And then Brundlefly comes down, because I'm not calling him Seth at this point. He's just fully Brundlefly. Comes down from the little alcove he's kept Veronica in, and he vomits acid onto the guy's leg and basically dissolves his whole foot.
Did you do the hand?
And he don't know it's his hand.
Yeah, he does his hand.
His hand first, and then his foot.
Yeah, he drops the gun obviously because his hand now has acid on it, and we watch it melt into a pink fleshy like stump.
Yeah.
And that's when he reaches with his other hand to grab the gun on the ground that's under his legs, and he's actually.
He kind of goes unconscious for a while, doesn't he?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
What he does is his gun that fell on the floor, he tries to bring it closer to him using his leg.
Yeah. He's
like slowly like pulling the gun towards himself with his leg.
Yeah.
And that's when Brundlefly kneels down and melts off his ankle.
Too.
Yeah.
And he's deciding to put... Sorry, go on.
Can I remind you at this point, it goes to show that he hasn't become necessarily a murderer.
Yeah.
Because he didn't have an instinct to kill. It was just self-preservation. And I think that him being mixed with a fly, he's not necessarily like has to kill, because obviously they're not carnivores, you know. So he doesn't have an instinct to just like kill this guy necessarily. It was just about self-preservation.
Yeah.
So it is weird. It is like maybe he wouldn't have hurt you if you weren't in his way.
Yeah.
Of his natural insect functions.
Definitely. And he decides, so Brundlefly wants to put himself, Veronica, and I guess the fetus in the telepods and merge them all as one. And he says, with all of us together, we're more human than fly. We'll be the perfect family all in one.
Yeah. Because he's got 3 telepods.
Yeah. And she's like, no, I don't want to do this. I'm scared. And she gets locked in a telepod and there's like a timer going off. He's in another one because there's 3 now, of course.
Were you rushing? Let's enjoy this scene a little bit more.
Oh, sorry.
Because before he puts in a telepod, he's obviously, like you said, like, we'll be the perfect family, let's go. She's obviously fighting him and she actually rips off his jaw.
Oh, yeah.
And
I forgot that happened.
Jaw falls onto the ground and because his body's falling apart and she's screaming. And as he's dragging her towards her pod, his flesh starts to melt off of his skin. Kind of like, as Dea said while we were watching it, cheese off a pizza.
Yeah, it did.
These just lumps of like thick layers of skin. And it reveals this sort of insect exoskeleton type body underneath. He's no longer human. His face almost implodes as well. Like the flesh, the eyes sort of pop out of his head and fall off. He's a completely different monster now. He is giving like alien, like completely different creature now. Seth is gone. This is just not quite an insect, but it's definitely not a human.
Yeah.
And that's when this monstrous thing puts her in the first teleporter and then locks itself in the other second teleporter so that they'll both be teleported into the third pod. But obviously during this, we keep cutting back to the timer that started on about a minute and a half.
Yeah.
And now it's like at a minute or 45 seconds.
Yeah, and it's like you get cutbacks between her and the teleport, him and the other teleport, and also Strathis, who's reaching for the shotgun and aiming at like is it the lock type mechanism?
No, so Strathis wakes up from obviously being passed out. He shoots at the cords that are leading to, what's her name? Veronica's pod, to basically disconnect Veronica's pod from the thing, because he realizes that he has very little time left. So he shoots the cable so that it disconnects her pod, and we see on the machine that it disconnects her pod. So she's not going to get teleported now. But then the monster also realizes this, but can't let itself out, so it starts smashing against the glass.
Yeah, so he's smashing the interior of his own teleport, and so when he teleports, he gets merged with the metal of the interior of the teleport into the next one. And so when he finally emerges from his now new teleported state, he is like, he's not sustainable. He's like got metal jutting out of him.
But again, that was such a good shot.
It was.
You have to do it justice, because it's like we're panicking because it keeps cutting back to the timer, which is going down from like 10 seconds, like 9, 8, and the monster's trying to break out of the teleport. The glass is breaking more and more, and it finally smashes through the glass, and it takes a step out of the pod, and that's when you see the timer go 2, 1, and the time runs out, and it gets teleported with a huge chunk of the thing, like you said.
Yeah.
And then it does its whole thing, and it gets teleported into the third pod, but the third pod doesn't have a glass door. It has a metal door, so we can't see what's happening inside of it.
Yeah.
And that's when the groomer X, crawls over to Veronica's booth, and he lets her out.
Yeah.
And they're both staring at this third metal pod that they know he's been teleported in. They have no idea what's about to emerge from it.
Yeah.
And it's this sort of suspenseful moment that they're waiting for the door to open to see what, because they've been fighting this like horrendous creature. What is going to come out of this? And that is when the door swings open and the creature falls to the ground, because it now has large chunks of metal from the teleport baked into its skin.
Like it's merged together. It's like mechanical and insect and human and fleshy all at once. It's like completely unrecognizable. I think this is my favorite like effect of the film.
Yeah,
I think so. It's like really, really cool.
It can't sustain its own weight.
He's gonna die. And then Veronica has the gun, and he pulls the muzzle of the gun to his own head.
Yeah, like, kill me.
He doesn't say anything.
Because he can't speak at this point.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a mouth. It's an insect.
Yeah. And she's crying and screaming, going, no, I can't do this. Because she loves him, because she's still Seth, and it's, you know what I mean?
Which is insane. Again, only a mother could love. She's that mother.
Yeah. But the thing is that she's not that insane, because she shoots him.
She does finally. And it's one of those like classic like head explosion.
Yeah.
Like
head explosion shots.
The flesh just like psh, everywhere.
Yeah. And it's that's where the movie just ends. There's no like catharsis or anything. It's just tragic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's brutal, and it's really like, wow. It's a really good film.
That's sort of where it ends.
That's where it ends.
I gave the film like a 3.5. I could give it a 4, but I just felt that the ending was a little rushed, or that there was some sort of scenes from the beginning that could have been cut a little and then added a little extra scenes at the end.
Fair. I give it a 4. I really like this film. It's a classic for a reason, like, and you can see the reasons very evidently throughout the whole film.
Yeah, definitely.
Let me see. Yeah, really amazing. And the gore is great, and the music is also really good. We haven't really spoken about that much, but it's like really good music. I thought the story was heartfelt and tragic. I didn't really buy the relationship in the beginning, like I said before, because of his just like bad riz, but I kind of got it as it went on, and I thought at some points they had like cute moments together and things like that.
And I mean,
but I actually found that I liked the sudden ending where it just ends.
I mean, I like the abrupt ending as well.
Yeah, but I didn't. Yeah, the beginning is the part that I would personally improve if I wanted. If it was to be a a perfect 5 out of 5 film, but
which is impossible. But,
yeah.
I thought it was really good body horror. I think it was good for that.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I felt the end was rushed. Not the end. I liked that, but sort of the last third of the film where he's transforming.
Yeah.
I wish we got to see a bit more of the transformation.
Yeah.
Because I think that, like you said, like as soon as we got to the transformation, we had so much to talk about and analyze and discuss. And I think that's where it really got interesting, and there was a lot of politics and questions about humanity. I just think you could have stretched that even further in a way that would benefit the film.
Yeah.
But you can always do more. You know, it's easy to say that you can always do more.
Again, we don't know what was cut from the film either. We don't know if, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
to make it marketable or
but
whatever.
It is good. It is good.
It's so good.
And I think maybe because it is so good at transformation and body horror that I do want more of The Last Third, because I'm like, that is such a element that was executed so well that I want it to take up more of the film.
Absolutely. Like, if you like body horror and you like transformations or you like special effects, creature features, or
featuring the creature,
if you love that kind of gloopy 80s body horror thing done really well, like, Cronenberg is your man, right? And this is like his magnum opus, is what people consider it to be, right? Watch it. It's a great film. Watch it.
I did want to ask though.
Yeah.
This is still a little question, but if you had to go in that telepod with another non-human being to have your DNA spliced with, what would it be?
Jellyfish.
A jellyfish?
Actually, no. Wait, they'd live forever.
You don't want to live forever?
No, I just call them like all gloopy. I just think that would be the funniest one, because then I could just like trail shit all over the ground.
I think I'd want to be a more intelligent species, because I feel like the transformation wouldn't be as bad.
What, like a dolphin or
like not an
orangutan
insect
or
maybe not even a sea creature, more like maybe another mammal, like a cat or like a dog.
A cat would be cute, yeah. Fucking furry.
Yeah, I'd be like half cat. That'd be good. Or like maybe, you know, it'd be beneficial, like maybe like half lizard.
Oh, lizard, yeah, that would work, I guess.
A little or like a gecko. Then you've got some water benefits too.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. I like the idea of like a creature, because then you could breathe underwater as well.
That's cool, but then my worry would be that I could only breathe underwater.
Oh,
you don't know what part you're gonna get.
That's true.
Imagine you could only live in water.
That'd be shit, actually.
Exactly. You don't know how much.
I can't watch One Piece under the water.
Exactly.
Maybe I would, or like an owl. That would be pretty cool, because then I could turn my head all around.
Hoo. No, that'd be a good one. Like a flying animal.
Yeah.
Like a bird.
But then what if you lose your hands and you only have wings?
Oh.
Yeah.
No, you still have your hands, because even birds have like the the wings would just grow around your hands. So I imagine they'd just be more pliable than bird wings.
Okay.
Again, you'd never know what
you're gonna get.
You could just get like white shits.
Do you know what? Then I feel like considering what happens to Seth, I'm alright with just white shits.
And like vomiting up sacks of food.
Do birds do that?
Oh. I believe owls do it. I think other species do too, but when they eat food, if there's anything they can't digest, they'll vomit up like this big sack of like, it looks like a turd, I'm not gonna lie. But it's like undigestible food.
Well, I guess that's kind of cool, because then it's like nothing toxic in your body.
You can't have IBS, because just vomit up all the stuff that your stomach's having a hard time with.
Oh my god. I think that owl was the right choice then. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was The Fly. I hope you enjoyed the episode.
I hope you enjoyed the episode. Tell us, have you seen The Fly?
What did you rate it?
What is your favourite body horror film? What's your favourite David Cronenberg film? I've only seen The Fly, so...
We'll do more.
What film do you want us to see us cover in the future?
Yeah.
How's your day going?
Crossed out. Okay. Thank you for coming. This was a great episode. Please follow us on our socials. Links are always below. Wherever you're listening, you'll find a link somewhere.
If you're on YouTube, you'll see our important links at the top, and then our socials are at the bottom, because social justice is important. Okay. And we'll see you very soon.
Period. Bye.
Bye. I love you.